There's a particular kind of terror that comes with your phone ringing at midnight, that heart-stopping moment when you see your child's name on the screen and know, just know, that something is terribly wrong. That call came from me on a Tuesday night in October. My 7-year-old son's name lit up my phone at 11:47 p.m., a time when he should have been asleep at his father's house, safe and sound. Instead, he was whispering into the phone, his voice thick with tears. "Mommy, can you come get me, please? I want to come home." My name is Leela Chin, and that phone call was the beginning of the worst and most important fight of my life, because my son wasn't just homesick or having a bad night. He was scared, and the person scaring him was the woman his father had just married, a woman who smiled sweetly in front of everyone but turned into someone else when no one was watching. Before we dive into what happened next, into the recordings, the investigation, the custody battle that followed, I need to know where you're watching from. Are you at home, in your car, taking a break from your own chaos? Drop your location in the comments. And if you've ever had to fight for your child, if you've ever known something was wrong and had to prove it, hit that like button. Because this story is about a mother's intuition, a child's bravery, and the evidence that saved us both. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was racing. "Why are you calling so late?" "She was mean to me again. She said I'm stupid. She said Daddy should never have had a kid. She took away my nightlight and locked my door from the outside." My blood ran cold. "Where's Daddy?" "He's asleep. He doesn't know. She's only mean when he's not looking. Mommy, I'm scared. Can you please come get me?" I was already grabbing my keys. "I'm coming right now, baby. Stay in your room. Don't open the door for anyone but me." "She has the key. I can't stop her if she comes back." "Then hide under your bed. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Keep the phone with you." I lived on one side of Seattle. My ex-husband lived on the other. The custody arrangement was week on, week off. This was supposed to be his week, his time with our son. But something was very, very wrong. I broke every speed limit getting there, kept my son on the phone the whole time, talking to him in whispers, keeping him calm while my own panic threatened to overwhelm me. When I pulled up to the house that used to be ours before the divorce 2 years ago, every light was off except one upstairs window, my son's room. I called him. "Baby, I'm here. I'm coming to get you." "The front door is locked, and my door is locked from the outside." "I still have a key to the house. I'm coming up." I used my old key. My ex-husband hadn't changed the locks, thank God. Crept through the dark house to the stairs, could hear snoring from the master bedroom, my ex-husband dead to the world while our son was locked in his room. The door to my son's room had one of those simple key locks on the outside, the kind you can unlock with a coin if you know what you're doing. I used my car key. When I opened the door, my son flew into my arms, sobbing. "Shh, shh, it's okay. Mommy's here. Let's go." I carried him down the stairs. He was 7, but small for his age, barely 50 pounds. We made it to my car without waking anyone. Only when we were safely back at my apartment did I let myself really look at him. He had a bruise on his arm, finger marks, adult-sized. "What happened to your arm?" "She grabbed me today when I spilled juice. She said I was clumsy and worthless. Then she squeezed really hard and said if I told Daddy, she'd make sure I never got dessert again." I took photos, documented everything. Then I held my son while he cried himself to sleep. The next morning, I called my ex-husband. "Why do you have our son?" he demanded. "It's my week." "Because he called me at midnight, terrified, saying your wife was abusing him." "That's ridiculous. Vanessa loves him." "He has bruises, finger marks on his arm." "He's a kid. Kids bruise. He's probably making up stories because he's jealous that I remarried." He's 7 years old and he was locked in his room. This isn't jealousy. Bring him back now, or I'm calling my lawyer. Call your lawyer. I'm calling mine too, and Child Protective Services. I hung up before he could respond. The CPS call was harder than I expected. I had to explain the situation calmly, rationally, even though I wanted to scream. A caseworker came to my apartment that afternoon, interviewed my son, took photos of his bruises, talked to me about the phone call, the locked door, everything. Kids this age usually don't lie about abuse, but it's hard to prove. It's often his word against the step-parent's word, and unfortunately, courts are reluctant to change custody arrangements without clear evidence. What counts as clear evidence? Documentation, medical records, witnesses, recordings if you can get them legally. Recordings. Washington is a two-party consent state, which meant I couldn't just record conversations without permission, but, and this is important, parents are allowed to record their minor children for safety purposes. It's a gray area legally, but family courts generally accept it when child welfare is at stake. That night I talked to my son, explained what I wanted to do. Sweetie, I need to prove that Vanessa is being mean to you, so I want to put a recording device in your backpack, a small one. It'll record what happens when I'm not there. Like a spy? Exactly like a spy, but you can't tell anyone it's there. Not Daddy, not Vanessa, not your friends. It's our secret. Can you do that? Will it keep me safe? Yes. It'll help me keep you safe. Yes. Okay, Mommy. I ordered a small digital recorder online, one that could record for 8 hours continuously. When it arrived 2 days later, I sewed it into the lining of his backpack, hidden but accessible. My ex-husband had filed for emergency custody, claiming I'd kidnapped our son. We had a hearing scheduled for the next week. In the meantime, the court ordered that my son had to return to his father's house, supervised visitation only. A social worker would be present for 2 hours each day. But supervised visitation only covered 2 hours. What about the other 22 hours? That's where the recorder came in. I sent my son back with his backpack, the hidden recorder activated. Remember, I told him, you don't have to do anything special. Just keep your backpack with you as much as possible. If Vanessa says something mean, if she hurts you, if anything happens, the backpack is listening. I'm scared, Mommy. I know, baby, but you're so brave, and I'm fighting for you. I promise I'm going to fix this. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Watching him walk into that house, knowing what might happen, was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But I had to let him go, had to gather evidence, had to prove what I knew in my gut was true. That first day, I listened to the recording with shaking hands. Nothing dramatic, just normal household sounds. Vanessa speaking to my son in a sickeningly sweet voice. Did you finish your homework? Good boy. Day 2, more of the same. Day 3, that's when everything changed. I heard my son's small voice. Can I have a snack? Vanessa's voice, cold now. You just ate lunch. Are you stupid? Do you not understand what just ate means? I'm hungry. You're greedy. That's what you are. Greedy and stupid, just like your mother. Don't call my mom stupid. The sound of a slap, my son crying. Don't you dare talk back to me. When your father's not here, I'm in charge, and you'll do what I say when I say it. Understand? Sobbing. Yes. Now go to your room. No dinner tonight. Maybe hunger will teach you some manners. I listened to that recording 5 times, tears streaming from my face, rage building with each replay. I had it. I had proof. I didn't go to my ex-husband first. I went straight to my lawyer. Her name was Andrea Kim. She was a family law attorney in her 40s with a reputation for being aggressive when it came to protecting children. She listened to the recording once. Then again. Her expression grew harder with each listen. "This is good," she said, "really good, but one incident might not be enough. The defense will claim it was an isolated moment of frustration, that she apologized later, that it's being taken out of context. What do I need? A pattern, multiple incidents showing sustained abuse. The more evidence, the stronger the case." So I kept recording. Every day that my son was at his father's house, the recorder was in his backpack. Day 4, "Why are you so clumsy? Normal children don't spill things constantly. Maybe there's something wrong with your brain." Day 5, "Stop crying. Crying is for babies. You're 7 years old. Act like it, or I'll give you something to really cry about." Day 6, "Your mother probably didn't want you either. That's why she was so quick to let your father have custody. Nobody wants a kid as annoying as you." Day 7, the sound of my son being pushed, a thud, him crying, "Get up, you're not hurt, stop being dramatic." Each recording was like a knife to my heart, but I documented everything, transcribed every word, noted every incident with timestamps. I also started documenting other things, took my son to a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma. She diagnosed him with anxiety, likely stemming from emotional abuse. I took him to his pediatrician. The doctor noted multiple bruises in various stages of healing, documented everything. I kept a detailed log. Every time my son came back from his father's house, I noted his emotional state, any physical marks, anything he told me about what had happened. The evidence was building, but so was the opposition. My ex-husband had hired an expensive lawyer. They were arguing that I was alienating my son from his father, coaching him to say negative things about Vanessa, creating a hostile environment. "Parental alienation is a serious allegation," Andrea warned me. "If they can make it stick, you could lose custody entirely." "I'm not coaching him. I'm protecting him." "I know, but you need to be careful. Document everything, but don't badmouth his father. Don't ask leading questions. Let your son speak freely." The emergency custody hearing was reset twice, once because my ex's lawyer claimed they needed more time to prepare, once because the judge's schedule changed. 3 weeks passed, 3 weeks of sending my son back to that house every other week, knowing what was happening, feeling helpless to stop it immediately. The recordings kept coming. "You're so stupid. How can one child be so incompetent at everything? Stop talking. Your voice is annoying. I wish your father had never had you. Our life would be so much better without you." Each one worse than the last. Each one more evidence of sustained emotional abuse. But there was a problem. I'd recorded this without Vanessa's knowledge or consent. My lawyer had warned me it might not be admissible. "Washington is a two-party consent state," she explained again. "However, there's an exception for parents recording their minor children. The courts generally allow it when there's a concern for the child's welfare, but it's not guaranteed. The judge could throw it all out." "What if the judge won't allow the recordings?" "Then we rely on the medical evidence, the therapist's testimony, and your son's own words. It's weaker, but it's something." Meanwhile, my son was deteriorating. The anxiety was getting worse. He'd started wetting the bed again, something he hadn't done since he was 4. He had nightmares. He'd cry at random moments. My teacher called me. "Is everything okay at home? He's been withdrawn lately, doesn't want to participate, sits by himself at recess." I explained the situation. She agreed to document her observations and provide a statement if needed. My ex-husband, meanwhile, was telling everyone who'd listened that I was crazy, that I was making up stories, that Vanessa was wonderful with our son and I was just jealous that he'd moved on. Some people believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was charming, successful, seemed like a devoted father. Vanessa was sweet in public, always smiling, always saying the right things. Nobody saw what I saw, what my son experienced. Until the recording from day 21. That day, my ex-husband had left for a business trip. It was just Vanessa and my son in the house overnight. The recording started normally. Dinner sounds, Vanessa telling my son to finish his vegetables. Then around 8 p.m., time for bed. Can I read for a little while? No, bed now. But Daddy usually lets me. Your father isn't here. I'm in charge, and I said bed. An hour later, sounds of my son crying, not the normal crying of a child having a tantrum, desperate, terrified crying. Please, I need to use the bathroom. You should have gone before bed. I really need to go, please. Then you'll learn to plan better next time. More crying, then horrifically the sound of my son wetting himself. Vanessa's voice venomous. You disgusting little brat. You did that on purpose. 7 years old and pissing yourself like a baby? I'm sorry. I couldn't hold it. You wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. Clean it up right now, and if you tell your father about this, I'll make sure you regret it, understand? Sobbing. Yes. Good. Now strip your sheets and put them in the wash, then sleep on the bare mattress. Maybe that'll teach you. I played that recording for Andrea. She listened with growing horror. This is severe emotional abuse, possibly physical neglect. Denying a child access to the bathroom is considered abuse in Washington. Will the judge listen to this? If we can get it admitted, yes, this is exactly what we need. But Leela, you need to prepare yourself. Your ex-husband might claim he had no knowledge of this, might say he'll divorce Vanessa and keep custody himself. The court might rule that he's an adequate parent and just had a bad choice in partners. But he left our son alone with her. He didn't see what was happening. He didn't believe our son when he tried to tell him. Exactly. We'll argue he was negligent, that he failed to protect his child, but it's not guaranteed. Family courts are complicated. The final hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. We had 37 separate recordings, hundreds of documented incidents of emotional abuse, several of physical abuse, and one clear case of neglect. We also had the therapist's evaluation, the pediatrician's records, and my son's own testimony, which the judge would take in chambers away from his father and Vanessa. It's a strong case, Andrea said, one of the strongest I've seen, but nothing certain until the judge rules. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. The custody hearing took place in a gray November rain. I dressed my son in his best clothes, khakis and a button-up shirt. He looked so small walking into that courthouse, holding my hand. "Will I have to see her?" he asked. "She'll be there, but you won't have to talk to her. You'll only talk to the judge." "What if the judge doesn't believe me?" "The judge will believe you, baby, because you are telling the truth, and we have proof." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. My ex-husband sat on one side with Vanessa and their lawyer, a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. Andrea and I sat on the other side with my son between us. My ex wouldn't look at me. Vanessa smiled sweetly at the judge, playing the role of concerned stepmother. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Morrison. She had a reputation for being fair but tough, and for taking child welfare seriously. "Let's begin," she said. "This is a modification of custody hearing. Ms. Chen is alleging that the child has been subjected to abuse in Mr. Chen's household and is requesting full custody. Mr. Chen disputes these allegations and is requesting that the current arrangement remain in place. Is that correct?" Both lawyers confirmed. "Ms. Kim, you may present your case." Andrea stood. "Your Honor, we have extensive evidence of sustained emotional and physical abuse of the minor child by the stepmother, Ms. Vanessa Chen. We also have evidence that Mr. Chen was negligent in his duty to protect his son, either by being unaware of the abuse or by dismissing the child's reports of it." She presented the medical records first, the pediatrician's notes documenting bruises, the therapist's evaluation diagnosing anxiety stemming from abuse. Then she played the recordings. The courtroom fell silent as Vanessa's voice filled the space. "You're so stupid. Nobody wants a kid as annoying as you. You disgusting little brat." The slaps, the denial of bathroom access, the cruelty in her voice. I watched my ex-husband's face as he listened. He went pale, then red, then pale again. He was hearing, maybe for the first time, what had been happening to his son. Vanessa maintained her sweet smile, but her hands were clenched, white-knuckled in her lap. When the recordings finished, Judge Morrison looked at my ex-husband. "Mr. Chen, were you aware of this treatment of your son?" No, Your Honor. I had no idea." "Your son never mentioned any of this?" "He said Vanessa was sometimes strict, but I thought he was just adjusting to having a stepmother. Kids complain." "Did you investigate his complaints?" "I asked Vanessa. She said she'd never been anything but kind to him." "And you believed her over your own son?" My ex-husband had no good answer for that. Judge Morrison turned to Vanessa. "Ms. Chen, is this your voice on these recordings?" "Yes, but, Your Honor, those recordings are taken completely out of context. The child was being defiant, disrespectful. I was trying to teach him discipline." "You called him stupid, told him nobody wanted him, denied him access to the bathroom until he wet himself. That's not discipline. That's abuse." "I was frustrated. Children can be very challenging." "Children require patience and care, not verbal abuse and physical neglect." The judge's voice was ice. "I've heard enough from you." She turned to my son. "Young man, I'd like to speak with you in my chambers, just you and me. Is that okay?" My son looked at me. I nodded encouragingly. "Okay," he whispered. They disappeared through a door behind the bench. 20 minutes passed. Every second felt like an hour. When they returned, my son's eyes were red, but his shoulders were straighter. The judge's expression was grim. "I've heard testimony from the minor child. His account is consistent with the recordings and the medical evidence. This court finds that the child has been subjected to sustained emotional abuse and physical neglect while in his father's care." My ex-husband's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client had no knowledge." "Your client had a responsibility to know. Parents are required to supervise caregivers and ensure their children's safety. Mr. Chen failed in that duty. Whether through negligence or willful blindness, he allowed his son to be abused." He looked at my ex-husband. "Mr. Chen, do you understand the severity of what has occurred?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Do you take responsibility for failing to protect your son?" Long pause. Then, "Yes." "What would you do differently?" I would leave my wife. I would never let her near my son again." Vanessa gasped, started to protest. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm, silencing her. Judge Morrison considered this. "Ms. Chen, given the evidence presented, I am issuing a restraining order. You are not to have any contact with the minor child. If Mr. Chen wishes to maintain any custody rights, he must demonstrate that he can provide a safe environment, which includes removing you from his household." She turned back to my ex-husband. "Mr. Chen, I am modifying the custody arrangement as follows. Ms. Chen receives full physical and legal custody. You will have supervised visitation only, 2 hours per week, until such time as you can demonstrate that you have removed Ms. Vanessa Chen from your household and completed a parenting course focused on recognizing and preventing child abuse." "Your Honor, that's not fair," my ex-husband started. "Fair?" The judge's voice cut like glass. What's not fair is a 7-year-old being terrorized in his own home. What's not fair is a child being too afraid to sleep, too anxious to eat, too traumatized to feel safe. You enabled that, Mr. Chen. You chose your wife over your son's well-being. Now you face the consequences." She banged her gavel. "This hearing is adjourned. The order is effective immediately." I pulled my son into my arms. He was crying, but quietly, with relief more than sadness. "Is it over?" he whispered. "It's over, baby. You're safe now." Across the courtroom, my ex-husband sat with his head in his hands. Vanessa was hissing at him, furious, but he wasn't responding. His lawyer was packing up quickly, already distancing himself from the disaster. Andrea squeezed my shoulder. "You did it. You protected your son." "We did it. Thank you." As we left the courthouse, my son held my hand tight. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby." "I was scared to tell you. I thought maybe it was my fault, that I was being bad and that's why she was mean." I knelt down to his level. "It was never your fault, baby. None of it. Adults are supposed to take care of children, not hurt them. What she did was wrong, and you were so brave to tell me, so brave to let me record. You helped save yourself. Are you proud of me?" "So proud. The proudest I've ever been." The first few weeks after the custody hearing were an adjustment. My son slept in my bed every night, afraid to be alone. He'd wake up crying from nightmares, disoriented, convinced he was back in that house. "It's okay," I'd whisper, holding him. "You're safe. You're home. She can't hurt you anymore." Slowly, gradually, he began to believe it. We continued therapy, both individual sessions for him and family sessions for both of us. The therapist worked with him on coping strategies, on rebuilding his sense of safety and self-worth. "Children who've experienced abuse often blame themselves," she explained to me. "Your son needs to understand, deeply understand, that what happened wasn't his fault, that he wasn't bad or stupid or annoying, that the adult failed, not him." It took months. Small victories at first, a night without nightmares, a day without anxiety, moments of genuine laughter instead of forced smiles. He stopped wetting the bed, started participating in school again, made friends, slowly became the happy, confident child he'd been before Vanessa. My ex-husband followed through on the judge's orders. He moved out of the house he'd shared with Vanessa, filed for divorce, completed the parenting course. 6 months after the hearing, he requested unsupervised visitation. Andrea and I opposed it initially, but the therapist thought it might be beneficial. Your son needs to see that his father has changed, that his father chose him over Vanessa. Right now, he's lost both parents in his mind. You were unavailable during custody weeks, and his father was complicit in the abuse. He needs to rebuild that relationship. So we started with short visits, lunch on Saturdays. My ex-husband would pick up our son, they'd go to a restaurant or park, and he'd have him back within 3 hours. The first visit, my son was terrified. What if she's there? She won't be. The judge said she can't be anywhere near you, and if your father breaks that rule, you call me immediately and I'll come get you. Promise? Promise. The visit went okay. Not great, but okay. My son came home and reported that his father had apologized, had told him that he was sorry for not protecting him, for not believing him, for letting Vanessa hurt him. "Did you believe him?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe." He cried. Gradually, over many months, they rebuilt their relationship. It would never be what it was. There was too much damage, too much betrayal. But it became something, a cautious connection, a father who'd failed, learning to be better. My ex-husband never fully regained unsupervised custody. The arrangement stayed as it was. My son lived with me full-time, spent supervised visits with his father. Eventually, the supervision became less formal. My ex would pick him up and I'd check in via text, but there was no court-appointed supervisor. As for Vanessa, she disappeared from our lives entirely. The restraining order was made permanent. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to another state, remarried quickly. I hoped for the sake of any children in her new husband's life that she'd changed, but I doubted it. People like Vanessa rarely change. They just find new victims. 2 years after the custody hearing, my son was doing well, still in therapy, but thriving, happy, social, doing well in school. One day he asked me, "Mom, why did you believe me when I said Vanessa was mean?" "Because you're my son, and I know you. You wouldn't lie about something like that." "But Dad didn't believe me." "I know, and that was wrong of him. He should have investigated, should have protected you." "Do you think he loves me?" "I think he loves you, but he made terrible choices. Love isn't enough if you don't also take action to protect the people you love." He thought about that. "You took action." "Yes, because that's what parents are supposed to do, fight for their children." "Thank you for fighting for me." "Always, baby. Always." 3 years after that midnight phone call, I was contacted by a local news station. They'd heard about my case and wanted to do a story about parental vigilance and protecting children from abuse. I was hesitant at first, didn't want to expose my son to more trauma, more public scrutiny. But the reporter promised to protect his identity, to focus on the broader message rather than our specific story. There are so many parents out there who suspect something's wrong but don't know what to do, she said. Your story could help them. So I agreed. The segment aired on a Tuesday evening. They interviewed me, my lawyer, and the therapist, with all identifying details about my son removed. "The most important message," I said to the camera, "is this. Trust your instincts. If your child tells you something is wrong, believe them. Children rarely lie about abuse, and even if you think they might be exaggerating or misunderstanding, investigate. Better to be wrong and look overprotective than to be right and have done nothing." The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages from parents in similar situations. Parents who suspected abuse but didn't know how to prove it. Parents who were afraid of being accused of alienation or of losing custody entirely. I started responding to them, sharing what I'd learned, connecting them with resources, lawyers who specialized in these cases, therapists who worked with abuse survivors, organizations that helped document evidence. It became a sort of informal support network, parents helping other parents navigate the nightmare of protecting their children from abuse within custody arrangements. "The system isn't designed for this," Andrea told me. "Family courts are overwhelmed, judges are cautious about changing custody arrangements, and abusers are often skilled at hiding their behavior. Parents need to be strategic, documented, and persistent." I wrote a guide, nothing professional, just a Google Doc, outlining what I'd learned. How to document suspected child abuse in custody situations. 1. Keep detailed logs, date, time, what your child said, any physical marks, emotional state. Be specific and objective. 2. Medical documentation. Take your child to their pediatrician regularly. Have any bruises, injuries, or behavioral changes documented in their medical record. 3. Therapy. A child therapist can provide professional observations and diagnosis if trauma is present. 4. Recording, where legal. Research your state's laws. In some states, parents can record their minor children for safety purposes, but confirm this with a lawyer first. 5. School records. Teachers and counselors often notice behavioral changes. ask them to document observations. 6. Don't coach your child. Ask open-ended questions. Let them speak freely. Leading questions can be used against you as evidence of alienation. 7. Document the other parent's responses. If you report concerns and they dismiss them, document that. It shows a pattern of failing to protect. 8. Get a good lawyer. Family law is complex. You need someone who specializes in high-conflict custody cases. 9. Take care of yourself. This process is exhausting and traumatic. You need to be strong for your child, which means taking care of your own mental health. 10. Trust your instincts. You know your child. If something feels wrong, it probably is. The guide was shared hundreds of times. Lawyers started referencing it. Therapists used it with clients. You've created something important, Andrea said, a roadmap for parents in crisis. But the most meaningful feedback came from the parents themselves. Your guide helped me document evidence that saved my daughter. I didn't know recording was legal. That evidence got my son removed from a dangerous situation. Thank you for fighting for your son and then sharing what you learned. You're helping so many families. Each message reminded me why I'd fought so hard, why I'd endured the stress, the legal fees, the emotional toll. Because children deserve to be protected, and sometimes that protection requires extraordinary measures. 4 years after the custody hearing, my ex-husband reached out. Not about custody or visitation, about Vanessa. She's been arrested, he said over the phone. Child abuse charges, her new husband's daughter. I felt sick. How bad? Bad. Physical abuse, neglect, emotional torture. The girl's 9. She's been living with it for over a year. Did they get her out? Yes, she's with her mother now, safe. But Lila, I've been thinking about our son, about what she did to him, about how I didn't see it. Why didn't you see it? Long pause. Because I didn't want to. She was beautiful, she made me feel good about myself, and I convinced myself that if there were problems, they were your fault for being a bitter ex-wife or our son's fault for being difficult. I chose comfort over my child's safety. Yes, you did. I know I can never fully make up for that, but I want you to know I testified against her in this new case, told them everything I knew, everything I should have seen. The prosecutor said it helped. Good. And I wanted to thank you for fighting when I wouldn't, for protecting our son when I failed to. You saved him, Lila, from me as much as from her. It was the most honest he'd ever been. He's doing well now, happy, healthy, still processing what happened, but he's resilient. Can I see him? Not because of the custody arrangement, but because I want him to know I understand now. I want to apologize properly. I'll ask him, but it's his choice. My son thought about it for a week, then decided he wanted to see his father. They met at a park. I stayed in my car, watching from a distance, ready to intervene if needed. I saw my ex-husband cry, saw my son's body language shift from defensive to cautiously receptive, saw them talk for over an hour. When my son came back to the car, he looked lighter somehow. What did you talk about? He said he was sorry, that he should have protected me, that what Vanessa did wasn't my fault and wasn't okay, that he loves me and wants to be a better dad. How do you feel about that? I don't know. It's good he said it, but words are easy. I want to see if he means it. That's very wise. You always say actions matter more than words. They do. Over the next year, my ex-husband proved himself through actions. He showed up consistently. He listened when our son talked. He respected boundaries. He went to therapy himself, working through whatever had made him vulnerable to someone like Vanessa in the first place. Their relationship improved, not perfect, never perfect after what had happened, but real. As for Vanessa, she was convicted on multiple counts of child abuse, sentenced to 6 years in prison, would be on a child abuse registry for life. Justice, Andrea said when I told her. For one child at least. For two, your son and this new victim, and potentially for others she would have heard in the future. That was the thing I held on to. By fighting for my son, by documenting everything, by refusing to accept his father's dismissals, I hadn't just saved my son, I'd created a pattern of evidence that helped convict Vanessa in her next case. Sometimes protecting one child protects others too. My son is 12 now, in middle school, thriving. He's on the soccer team, has friends, gets good grades, still sees his therapist occasionally, but more for maintenance than crisis management. The anxiety is mostly gone. The nightmares are rare. The trauma is part of his story, but it doesn't define him. Sometimes he talks about it in the casual way kids do. Remember when I used to be scared all the time? That was weird. It wasn't weird. You had been through something traumatic. It made sense to be scared. I'm glad you believed me. I'll always believe you. He still sees his father every other weekend. Their relationship is decent, not the close bond some fathers and sons have, but functional, respectful. My ex-husband has remarried again, a woman with grown children who seems kind and normal. I've met her a few times during pickups. She's appropriate, boundaries respecting, clearly aware of the history. I know what happened, she told me once. He's told me everything. I want you to know I'd never tolerate anything like that. And if you ever have concerns, any concerns, I want you to tell me. Thank you. That means a lot. People sometimes ask me if I regret how I handled things, if I wish I'd done something differently. The only thing I regret is not acting sooner, not trusting my instincts earlier. When my son first mentioned that Vanessa was mean sometimes, I should have investigated immediately. Instead, I told myself he was adjusting to the new family dynamic, that all kids complain about step-parents, that it was normal. It wasn't normal. It was the beginning of abuse. But I caught it, eventually, and I fought back. That's what matters. I still run that informal support network for parents, still share my guide, still respond to messages from desperate mothers and fathers who know something's wrong but don't know what to do. Last month, I got a message that made me cry. 3 years ago, you responded to my message about my daughter. I was terrified, didn't know what to do. You sent me your guide, connected me with a lawyer, told me to trust my instincts. I documented everything like you said, got recordings, medical records, therapy documentation. Last week, I won full custody. My daughter is safe now, and it's because you helped me fight. Thank you for saving my daughter by sharing what saved your son. These messages, dozens of them over the years, remind me why I share our story, why I put our pain out there for others to learn from. Because child abuse thrives in silence, in parents not knowing what to do, in courts requiring impossible standards of proof, in abusers being skilled at hiding their behavior. But when we share strategies, when we help each other document and fight and persist, we save children. That's worth any amount of public exposure, any residual pain from reliving our story. My son knows I share our story. He's okay with it as long as his identity is protected. It's good, he said, if it helps other kids. You're very brave, you know that? I had to be. She was scary. But you called me. You let me help you. That took courage. I knew you'd fight for me. You always fight for me. Always, baby. always. 6 years after that midnight phone call, I was invited to speak at a family law conference. The topic? Documenting child abuse in high-conflict custody cases. Standing in front of 200 lawyers, judges, and family court professionals, I told our story, showed them the methods I'd used, explained what had worked and what hadn't. The biggest obstacle, I said, isn't getting evidence, it's getting the court to take it seriously. Too many judges are reluctant to believe that abuse is happening, especially when the accused parent seems normal and functional in public. A judge in the audience raised her hand. How do we balance protecting children with avoiding false accusations? Parental alienation is real. Sometimes parents do coach children. You're right, it's a balance. But here's what I'd say. Err on the side of the child. If there's evidence, medical, therapeutic, recorded, documented, take it seriously, investigate thoroughly, and understand that abuse often happens behind closed doors. The absence of public evidence doesn't mean nothing happened. I showed them clips from my recordings. The room went silent as Vanessa's voice filled the space. This is what emotional abuse sounds like. This is what children experience when adults think no one's watching. And this is why documentation matters. After the presentation, several judges approached me. "Thank you for this," one said. "I'm going to be more skeptical when accused parents claim false allegations. Your case is a reminder that children usually tell the truth." Another, "I've been a family court judge for 20 years. I've probably let some children fall through the cracks by not taking accusations seriously enough. Your story has made me reconsider my approach." That night, Andrea and I had dinner. "You're making a real impact, changing how people think about these cases." "I hope so, but it shouldn't take a dramatic case like mine for courts to protect children. It should be standard." "You're right, but change is slow. What you're doing, sharing your story, educating professionals, supporting other parents, that's how systemic change happens. One case at a time, one lawyer at a time, one judge at a time." I'd also started working with legislators, pushing for reforms that would make it easier to protect children in custody situations. Some changes we were advocating for were mandatory recording allowances, making it explicitly legal for parents to record their minor children when there's suspected abuse, regardless of consent laws. Faster emergency custody processes, allowing judges to temporarily modify custody immediately when credible abuse allegations surface, rather than requiring months of court proceedings while children remain in danger. Better training for judges, educating family court judges about the dynamics of child abuse, how abusers hide their behavior, and how to evaluate evidence. Protection from retaliation, preventing accused parents from using parental alienation claims to punish protective parents who report abuse. And mandatory abuse screening, requiring all custody cases to include screening for domestic violence and child abuse, rather than assuming shared custody is always best. It was slow work. Legislative change always is, but it mattered. Because somewhere right now, a child is experiencing what my son experienced. A parent is getting a midnight phone call. An abuser is hiding behind closed doors. And the more tools we give protective parents, the more children we save. 7 years after the midnight phone call, my son asked me something I'd been dreading. "Mom, why didn't Dad protect me?" We were sitting at the kitchen table, homework spread between us. The question came out of nowhere, casual, but weighted. I set down my coffee. "What do you mean?" He said, "I told him Vanessa was mean, multiple times. Why didn't he believe me?" This was the conversation I'd known we'd have eventually, the one I'd prepared for in therapy sessions, role-played with a therapist, worried about for years. "Your father made a mistake," I said carefully. "A big one. He wanted to believe that his marriage was working, that Vanessa was good, that everything was fine, and he convinced himself that your complaints were just about adjusting to having a step-parent. But I told him she hurt me. I know, and he should have listened. He should have investigated. He should have put your safety first. Why didn't he?" Sometimes adults make terrible choices. Sometimes they're selfish or scared or too caught up in their own lives to see what's happening to their children. It's not an excuse, it's just what happened. "Do you think he loves me?" "I think he loves you, but he failed you. Both things are true. And I think he regrets that failure deeply, which is why he's been working so hard to be a better father now. Is it okay that I'm still mad at him sometimes?" "Absolutely. You have every right to be angry. What happened to you was wrong, and he was part of why it continued. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen or that it was okay. It means deciding to move forward despite what happened." "Have you forgiven him?" I thought about that. I've forgiven him for my own peace, not for his benefit. I needed to let go of the anger because it was hurting me. But I haven't forgotten, and I don't fully trust him the way I did before. That makes sense. You get to decide what your relationship with your father looks like. You can forgive him or not forgive him. You can be close to him or keep him at a distance. Whatever you need is valid. What if I can't decide? Then you don't have to. You can change your mind. You can feel different things at different times. That's normal. He nodded slowly, processing. "Mom, can I ask something else?" "Always." "What if Vanessa gets out of prison and tries to contact me?" My protective instincts flared immediately. "She won't. The restraining order is permanent, and even after she gets out, she's legally prohibited from contacting you ever." "But what if she tries anyway?" "Then we call the police and she goes back to jail. She knows that. She won't risk it." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure, and I'm here. I'll always be here to protect you." He relaxed slightly. "Okay." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then, "Mom, thank you." "For what?" "For believing me, for fighting for me, for making sure I was safe." I reached across the table and took his hand. "That's what mothers do. That's what parents are supposed to do." "Not all parents do." "No, not all parents do. And I'm sorry you learned that so young, but I promise you, I will always, always fight for you." "I know. That's why I called you that night." "I'm so glad you did."